Welcome back to my videos on the designing, the building and the selling of my 23 foot or 7 meter Sharpie. In this video, starting off with, I'm literally walking on the deck for the first time. It's not fastened down yet. I'm just working a few things out before I put another layer of glass under the deck around the bow area to give it some diagonal strength, some more diagonal strength because of the mast tabernacle there. And I'm also trying to work out how big the forehatch will be. Both side decks are now ready to go on the boat. I've added an extra layer of 400 gram double bias on the forward part of the deck here. The port side is ready to be glued on. Temporarily held it down so I don't have to muck around while the glue is going off. It's looking good. Pulled it down where I need to pull it down, and after lunch I'll get stuck into gluing this side down. It's all ready to go. Right down to the transom. Everything gets coated with resin first. The port side deck is glued on, and I haven't done the coving inside here. It was easier to get inside here than I thought, but it won't be easy when the starboard side's on, so I'm going to have to... The deck is glued on finally. This temporary gunnel is coming off. As easy as that. There's always one screw. I don't find fair chamfers easy to do, but the method I use is to put some flats on first, and you can see if the flats are getting wider or more narrow, and do 2 or 3 at least, like you would with a mast, and then use the longboard as shown. This is how I'm avoiding getting leaks into the timber and also crushing the timber when the fastenings are through the stanchion bases. So I'll be putting tape under these and filling the hole mostly with resin with blue fibre in it. Part of doing the deck, of course, is to ideally work out where everything goes before you do the glassing. And so I've had to, because this is Paulownia timber, I've had to make inserts, as you can see here. These were a bit difficult because I couldn't get through to inside this area to put a bit of tape underneath, so I had to use some quite thick epoxy to start before I started filling these holes. I've pretty much got everything worked out. I've got some cut files for stainless steel being cut as we speak. They won't arrive for a few days. What really helps is my model, and I think I've worked out where exactly the pad eye has to go. Tabernacle on the boat is here. I'm doing a whole lot of sanding inside, and it's going quite well. But once again, I wish I hadn't used hard glue to join all these strips. And the next day, I'm quite happy with how the deck glassing went yesterday. There's 2 layers of double bias, a little extra layer, so there's 3 layers here where the fittings go, and on the top of the top sides there's 3 layers down here, 1 coming up from the top side and 2 from over the deck. So quite happy with the strength of it all. These plates I've had laser cut. They're 4mm 316, and one of these plates will be flush with the surface here and glued in. Believe it or not, I used to have a ticket in TIG welding. I'm not sure why I've got the pulse on. You don't need to use pulse for TIG welding. I was just putting a bit of a chamfer on the top of those holes for the dome nuts, and this is what happens when the bloody tungsten bit grabs. Gave me a bit of a fright. Don't think my shoulder's that happy about it. But anyway, it's all going to get glued in, so quite happy to have a bit of glue around the plate. In case there's any leaks, then it'll have to leak through the glue as well. Bit of a clean up with thinners, bit of a resin soaking of that hole, and it'll be good to go in, just like that. So it's pretty watertight in there, and it fits on, and it's going to be pretty secure. I think the pulpit staunch and vertical will bend before it breaks this. May it never be tested. But I've yet to countersink this plate, of course. But pretty happy with that. More of the side decks got glassed yesterday. Went okay. And just when I say just, the foredeck to be done. Yet another big glassing session. The decks are all glassed now. And part of that process was working out all the fittings, where they'll go. Got a lot of glass in that corner. That's a very high load area of the tabernacle, and once I cut this hatch out, you can see the outline of it there. I will be doing some glassing underneath the deck, coving the corners and glassing the corners to give the strength required. Quite happy with how this part of the glassing went, although it was a bit long really, because by the time I got around to this side it was getting a bit late to put the peel ply on the other side, and I tried to use lots of leftover bits of glass, so it wasn't as easy as just laying big sheets of fabric over the area, but I think I'll get away with the result. Today, after cutting the foredeck hatch out and sanding it up a bit, I'm working on coving and glassing on the inside of the anchor locker, which is quite a bit of fun. And fortunately for this size of boat, it's a huge anchor locker, and it has to be because the mast swings from the tabernacle. There's a pivot near the top, and the mast will swing up the base of it. And then over here you can see the foredeck hatch, which needs a little bit more work. Glassing the edges, glassing that joint in the middle over here, and that's pretty much finished. It's pretty light. No, it's not really light, I suppose. It's got 2 layers of 400 double bias on it, which is probably pretty much overkill. But you might be wondering how the deck's actually turned out in the way of my expectations, in the way of stiffness. Probably exceeded my expectations, not surprisingly, because I've got 2 layers of double bias on the top of the decks and one underneath the deck, except for up around the bow where the strength needs to be for the tabernacle. And I was pretty confident about 1 layer, but with this boat, if I'm not sure about something, I usually take it up a notch, and which will make for a little bit heavier boat than I wanted. But I'll walk around the deck now, and there's some reasonable spans here, and if I stand on them, considering there's no cabin side to support it, it's pretty stiff. It's nowhere near looking like my weight is doing any harm to it at all. Not to mention there's hardly any flexing. So this is pretty much one of the first times I've walked around the deck, which is quite a neat stage to be at. Over the last few days I've been round and round with trying to make sure I'm doing the right thing with the rig, talk to friends locally and overseas who know a lot about rigs, alternative rigs, and even though everyone has a different opinion, I've got to convince myself most of all that it's the right way to go, and I'm pretty sure that's pretty close to how the sail will look. But what I'm going to do first off is probably not have the wishbones, which is a proper Ljungstrom rig to not have the wishbones, and even this square top is a departure from the Ljungstrom rig original one. So I'm going to give it a go. It'll be a bit like sheeting a head sail. So we'll see how it goes, but I'll leave all the options possibly there in the way of fittings and things for those wishbones to be put on later should they become necessary. It'd be nice to keep things as simple as possible, and as long as there's reasonable efficiency of the rig and it's not hard to use. So finishing off the tour of the deck, it's really good because I'm not going to need to use a lot of bracing under the deck because of the thickness of the deck, and the skins. Of course, it makes quite a strong structure, stronger than I probably expected. Thanks for watching. Next time I'll be making a video about fitting out the interior, which will start with sanding, glassing, and probably doing the cockpit first, and I will have had to make the daggerboard casing as well, so I can glass around the sole of the center of the boat. See you next time.